It's almost time. Can you feel it? T minus 15 seconds. More? Greg needs more time? We're going to miss our launch window, Greg. We don't want to miss the moon. We got to keep on schedule. Thank you all for coming out tonight to the first Mystic Muffin production. We're going to take a trip to the moon.
The following program deals with a controversial subject. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. Viewers are invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Your guidance is confirmed. You're looking good.
Armstrong confirming both the engine skirt separation and the launch escape tower separation.
For the next 3 days, Apollo coasted through space.
These guys spent 3 days cruising through this with no climate control. Picture you take 50 rolls of Reynolds wrap and you make a room out of it.
The skin of the lunar module is so thin that you could punch a hole right through it.
I'm here today to hopefully debunk some common space myths. Here's this common perception.
We went to the moon in 1969.
Neil Armstrong and Edwin Buzz Aldrin walked on the moon on the Apollo 11 mission.
We went to the moon in 1969. That's when they made a landing that was
Skin on the crew cabin was very thin, and that was all done because of weight savings. Weight was a very critical item that always had to be considered in anything that you did.
If you really took your finger and poked hard at it,
You could poke right through the outer skin of the spacecraft. It was about the thickness of 2 layers of aluminum foil. But it's the kind of thing that you were reasonably cautious that you didn't jab any pointed objects through.
Your lungs are going to be sucked flat instantaneously. But even worse than that is your blood is going to boil, like opening a can of pop where suddenly all the little bubbles come out because there's no air pressure around you. So simultaneously, you are going to freeze, boil, burn, get the bends, and no longer be able to breathe.
One of our biggest challenges on a mission to Mars is protecting the crew from radiation.
Houston, we have a problem.
As we get further away from Earth, we'll pass through the Van Allen belts, an area of dangerous radiation. Sensors aboard will record radiation levels for scientists to study. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space. We must solve these challenges before we send people through this region of space.
In 1959, I was working with advanced research at Rocketdyne, and their own studies proved that radiation levels on the moon were lethal. This corroborated Russian research. The Russians claimed that for a man to survive on the moon with the radiation emitted from solar and cosmic sources, he would have to be shielded by 4 feet of solid lead.
You could poke right through the outer skin of the spacecraft. It was about the thickness of 2 layers of aluminum foil.
It's tough out there for a spacecraft. Hardware in space must brave an ocean of dangerous radiated particles.
But it's the kind of thing that you were reasonably cautious that you didn't jab any pointed objects through.
The skin, the aluminum alloy skin of the crew compartment was about 12/1000ths of an inch thick. That's equivalent to about 3 layers of Reynolds wrap that you would use in the kitchen.
You're getting bombarded by radiation.
All of space is a radiation environment. And everywhere you go, there are heavier ions from galactic cosmic rays. No spacecraft passes through unaffected.
The skin of the lunar module is so thin that you could punch a hole right through it.
Naturally, we have to pass through this danger zone twice, once up and once back. shielding will be put to the test as the vehicle cuts through the waves of radiation.
So we have a very complex radiation field that includes things like protons and all the particles on the periodic table of elements. They're coming in at energies that are approaching the speed of light, and they're difficult to shield against. And they're always there, so the concept of time really doesn't make sense because you can't reduce the exposure in space.
Have survived the deadly radiation of space.
Getting them past the radiation belt would have been impossible.
Every manned mission in history, Gemini, Mercury, Skylab, the space shuttle, has been below the radiation belt, all except going to the moon.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture.
To protect the astronauts, the capsule would have needed 6 feet of lead shielding, according to physicist Ralph Winnie.
Obviously, the only shielding they had was the literally paper-thin outer hull of aluminum, and their suits consisting of glass fiber, some aluminum fibers, and silicon rubber.
It's very interesting concerning radiation that the astronauts were protected by a thin film of aluminum. When here on Earth, they put a lead shield on us when they take a dental x-ray.
Was it the fear of lethal radiation that caused the Russians to abandon their plans to go to the moon?
I would say that anybody who believes that we did not go to the moon is an absolute nut.
The United States went to the moon in the 1960s and the 1970s. End of story.
Stay tuned for more space stuff.
Before exploration can take place, another mission must be accomplished: the creation of the spacesuit. When you put a human being in a spacesuit, suddenly the possible is impossible.
Now, I just want to say that back when we were launching this mission, we at NASA decided to outsource the making of the spacesuits. We knew we needed a company that could stand up to the challenge of making a suit to stand the rigors of outer space, the extreme temperatures, the radiation, and just the vacuum of space.
And for perfect comfort and figure control,
I'm so glad
whether you
Playtex
stand,
was chosen.
stoop, or sit, Playtex has 7-way stretch. It doesn't ride up. Get the new golden Playtex with the cool cloth lining.
For me, figure control was way more important than all that other stuff. So Playtex didn't do radiation testing. So what? I needed a suit that was going to lift and separate. And look,
made boxing
it doesn't
gloves
ride
before
up
I
either.
came here, and the fact is,
So now
I
I'd like
was
to
an
introduce you
experienced
to
sewer,
the
but I
ladies that
had to
made
learn
the Apollo
all over
spacesuits.
again because it was completely different from what I had sewed before. This was getting right down to a 64th of an inch, and where I had sewed before, you just sewed on a production line. And this here is quality more than quantity.
The first items of clothing are the water-cooled underwear and a urine collector. A spacesuit is basically a sealed bag of atmosphere, a stiffened balloon, pumped up to counteract the vacuum of space.
Well, when they're up there in space, you know what parts you've worked on, and you just say, well, I hope that part don't fail because I'd feel it was my fault if it did.
My sentiment is what Hazel said. Well, I was just wondering if my pair of gloves was what he had on.
If you make a mistake, if you don't admit it, you have to think about the astronaut too. If you make like a needle hole in the bladder or something like that, well, we don't admit that. That would be on your conscience all the time, seems to me. Because I remember Armstrong and all them used to come in, and they would look around and see what we were doing. And once in a while they'd talk to us and sign we'd get them to sign their autograph.
It might be called a one-man spaceship of the smallest possible dimensions. The pressure suit has to guard against extreme temperatures, hard radiation from the sun, and tiny meteorites. Yet, it must have the flexibility to allow a man to function as he would in his natural Earth environment.
Ed White is flying at 17,000 miles
So
per hour. 200 miles.
This is my good friend, Ed White. He was the first man to walk in space. Funny thing is, though, these spacesuits were not made to have swiveling helmets. They had to be clamped on and pressurized.
Okay, I'm out.
And they were stiff. I don't know how Ed got this suit. He got one that swiveled the helmet. No other astronaut got one of these. I don't know how he got so lucky. Mine doesn't swivel.
Over the pressure helmet is a clear visor, then a gold-coated visor to protect against micrometeors and solar radiation.
In the shade in space, it's like minus 250 degrees. But the part of you that's in the sun, it's plus 250 degrees at least. So it's going to start boiling and burning. So it's like lying on a red hot stove with a piece of dry ice on your back.
The moon is 250 degrees hot in sunlight and 240 degrees below zero in the middle of its night. How long can a man bake or freeze? What protection will he need from this inhuman environment?
The lunar module is setting in the sun, which it always is. Then slowly but surely, that temperature inside is going to go up to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, you ain't going to make it because you're going to cook long before that.
The temperatures go down to 250 degrees below zero. In the sun, the temperatures go up to 250 degrees above zero.
Renee also theorized that the astronauts' liquid-cooled spacesuits could not have provided sufficient protection from the intense heat and radiation.
Now, here comes another tricky part, landing on the moon.
Here's like a perfect example of what's happening on the moon. I mean, it's proof right there. This is an official NASA photo of the first Apollo 11 lunar module landing on the moon. I mean, it's right there. This is the first one. The picture's right there, landing on the moon. But the only problem I have with this picture is that it's taken from the moon. I don't know what the big deal was with being the first guy on the moon. It seems the camera crew was already there.
Hatch reported coming open at 109 hours, 8 minutes, 5 seconds.
This is my moon guitar.
Oh! Yeah, baby. We made it to the moon! Woohoo! We can breathe on the moon! Atmosphere on the moon.
Some have pointed out how there's no crater underneath the lunar module landing. The jet propulsion would have likely created a crater, or at least some type of big marquee from its landing. There isn't any dust anywhere though, not even on the legs or feet of the module. I would think that some kind of dust or rocks should have been blown around from the lunar module landing on the moon. Keep in mind that the module had a 10,000-pound thrust engine. Except
Are you ready, eager young
no
space cadet?
disturbance underneath
Going to take a
This engine did not leave a crater of any size. It has about 1 foot clearance on the ground. I can see some evidence of rays emanating from beneath that engine, but very insignificant amount.
You are being lied to.
Roger out. Roger out. Roger out.
A lot of people think it's real, so it must be.
water on the moon?
A lot of people think it's real, so it must be.
Now, this water came from the interior of the moon, so the moon must have contained water to begin with.
Houston, we have a problem.
It was impossible to go to the moon. It was impossible to go to the moon.
We couldn't possibly have done that.
So, there is water on the moon.
We didn't go to the moon. We didn't go to the moon. The astronauts never made it beyond Earth's orbit. Why don't we go back again?
Scientists see accumulating evidence that there is water on the moon.
Thank you. We made it back safe. Thank God we made it back. I was so worried.
What was it? What was it we were really celebrating? 3 men who had done what no man before had done? A technological feat was believed beyond the realm of possibility? The fulfillment of an age-old dream? Were we celebrating simply because it had been a long time since we'd had anything to celebrate? Or was this something that touched an irrational, unthinking instinct in us all?
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
That's not an 8-year-old's question. That's my question. I want to know, but I think I know. Because we didn't go there, and that's the way it happened. And if it didn't happen, it's nice to know why it didn't happen.
Why has nobody been to the moon in such a long time?
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
Did they really land on the moon?
There were many problems that evolved during the 60s that led people to believe that we're never going to make it to the moon.
I want to be an astronaut.
You want to be an astronaut?
Well, that's great. You can be an astronaut. All you have to do is study flying or science, and maybe someday you could be the first astronaut to walk on the moon.
No! There already was an astronaut who first walked on the moon.
Well, no, not really. That wasn't real. See, there was this thing called the Cold War, and in order to beat the Russians, we kind of faked that. That never happened.
Apparently, NASA lost the tapes that recorded data of the original Apollo 11 moon landing in 1969.
But your own research has shown the telemetry data is missing.
That's right. Do you know that all that shit's missing? You know all the original footage is missing? All of it.
The tapes included biomedical data on astronauts, video footage of the Apollo 11 landing, and all of their telemetry and engineering data.
But look, it's missing.
I thought you had
Remember
this.
when that? Not only that, you know what else is missing? The telemetry data. All the ones and zeros that show the location of the capsule.
NASA actually lost not just the Apollo 11 telemetry data, but NASA lost all of the telemetry data from all of the Apollo missions.
They recorded over the original tapes of the fucking moon landing. How much of a shortage of magnetic tape do you have where you're going to record over all of the video from the motherfucking moon landing?
That's well over 10,000 lost tapes and over a ton, literally a ton in weight of missing tapes.
There's a bunch of weird shit connected to the moon landing. A lot of it.
When NASA starts making excuses and delays to this new moon mission, think about one thing: can they really go? Have they actually been there before?
And Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins signed on this plaque, and they gave this moon rock to this guy in Holland, and it turned out to be petrified wood. It was fake.
You really like it? You're the one who said you walked on the moon when you didn't. Calling the kettle black if ever thought of saying I missed that to get it my way from me. You're a coward, you're a liar.
If you show this publicly, you're open for a lawsuit. Okay?
They're there putting the transparency over the window. They're clearly pretending to be halfway to the moon when they're not halfway to the moon.
That is bullshit. I don't care what you say. I went to the moon and back, and everyone that's a scientist knows it. Take your stuff and get the fuck out.
I've asked 6 other astronauts if they would swear on the Bible, and they refused to do it. Yeah, right here's fine. And the photography is being forged in the mission. They're faking a shot of being halfway to the moon.
Huh, really?
Yeah, and they said it was the same way that you did it on Apollo 10. So we wanted to give you the opportunity to put your left hand on the Bible, to raise your right hand, to swear to God.
Stick it in your ear.
Well, you were giving an opportunity to swear to God under oath that you walked on the moon.
I don't do that kind of thing.
Well, if you really walked on the moon, what's the problem of swearing to God that you did? Do you believe in God?
You want me to knock you in the head?
Well, I want you to swear to God on the Bible that you walked on the moon. If you walked on the moon, we're given the opportunity to swear to God that you walked on the moon.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to get the hell knocked out of you if you don't leave me alone.
So why don't you just put the end to the record in the argument and put your hand on the Bible, swear to God you walked on the moon.
Mr. Several, knowing you, that's probably a fake Bible.
Well, you're talking to the wrong guy. Why don't you talk to the administrator and ask him? We're passengers. We're guys going on a flight.
I don't hit people, but you're going to be on the deck.
Well,
I got a black house.
Well, I take your stuff and get the fuck out. Why don't you quote me and say it's bullshit?
shadows in her office. I don't give a damn about all that shit.
This is full of shit. Of lunar orbit being falsified. Being falsified? Correct. We've got an unedited tape from a source at the Johnson Space Center.
That's totally nonsense.
We do not deserve answers.
You really like adventures, don't you?
You're the one who said you walked on the moon when you didn't. Calling the kettle black, if I ever thought of it. Saying I misrepresented myself.
Away from me.
You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
Did we really go to the moon?
I'm sorry, Jay. I'm sorry.
I could see that how that would affect your Christmas.
I made that whole thing up.
What?
I'm sorry. I guess I just wanted to seem interesting. I guess there's a real danger of that on this show.
There's a pressure.
Well, yeah, people come out and they've run out of anecdotes, and they just start making stuff up.
Yeah.
Like that Neil Armstrong guy. Have you seen him on the talk shows?
Neil Armstrong, you mean the first man to walk on the moon?
Talk about a fish story.
Yeah.
Man, and they're buying it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight and helping us fulfill the mission of landing a man on the moon and returning us safely to Earth. This is Earth, right? Want to make sure we didn't take a wrong turn somewhere. So this has been the first show of a performance series that we're going to launch to address the big lies in our media environment. And our aim is hopefully to start to break the hypnotic spell of this mass media-induced cognitive dissonance state that we're all under. So I'm hoping that you'll start to question these assumptions that are repeated over and over to us in the media. And more specifically tonight, I hope that you'll look into, maybe do some more of your own research, look into some information about the Apollo moon landings, and realize that we've been lied to about this. And if they've lied to us about this, what else are they lying to us about? Just kidding! I'm kidding! This has all been misinformation and fake news, what you've experienced tonight. Everybody knows that we went to the moon. But what you don't know is what really happened on the moon. This is NASA's deepest, darkest secret. Something they will never tell the public. Something that has never been revealed until tonight. We spent hundreds of hours filing hundreds of Freedom of Information requests, and they accidentally sent us this one tape that shows what really happened on Apollo 11. You are about to see it now.